And Nona Peltier has joined me in the studio to discuss business. So, restaurant brands, there's still growth there, and it's coming from our taste for chicken.
Yeah, people love their KFC. The company's growth is just, always growing on the sales of KFC. So this last time around, the last quarter rose 5.7%, just keeps building. And that's contributed an awful lot to their sales. That was $80 million of sales. So that's pretty good.
So it is the strongest because they've got all sorts, haven't they?
They do. They have Carl's Jr. burgers. Now the growth in that wasn't as good. That was down 7.5%, but that's a small part of their earnings. And then Pizza Hut also down, but then they're also franchising their stores. So same store sales in that sense were down 9.4%. So pizza and burgers not as popular as the chicken. Now the company is bringing in Taco Bell to New Zealand, and they're expecting that to generate growth. Certainly that's been a real money spinner in jurisdictions where it does exist. It's been going. That brand is quite old and definitely is very profitable because it's very cheap to produce tacos and people love them.
Interesting. Okay, Mainzeal. So the recent court judgment, which involved the directors, including Dame Jenny Shipley.
That's right.
Lots of lessons to be learnt, according to a legal firm who was actually involved in the case.
Yes, that's right. So the company, the firm Minter Ellison Rudd Watts, was the lawyer representing Mainzeal's liquidator, BDO. And one of the lawyers who worked on that is a fellow named Mihai Pascario, and he was talking to me earlier today about some of the things that they've learned from this. And one of the things was that this particular company had not sought independent legal advice or financial advice until way down the road. So they'd been operating for 8 years in an insolvent position before they sought some independent legal advice. That was really towards the end, just before the collapse of the business. And he said, really, in situations where you've got, a lot of complicated financials and you need advice, you should be asking for that much sooner. And they would have probably avoided some of the problems. The other thing is they didn't have the right kind of director's insurance. So they had insurance. Yes, they had insurance for liability, I think $2 million or something like that. But what they didn't have was insurance for legal costs associated with having to defend an action against them. And so he says that really directors should be looking at what kind of insurance they have and make sure it's adequate. Certainly, he said in the case of these directors, they didn't have adequate insurance considering the turnover of that business, which was more like $400 million or somewhat. And he said their insurance cover was quite paltry relative to the risk that they were facing. So
you've just sent hundreds, thousands of directors scrambling to the top drawer to read their insurance policy.
And then they should definitely be looking it over because that's quite critical. And these days there's a lot of liability and a lot of pressure on directors to get things right. So yeah, definitely look at your insurance, make sure it's adequate.
Markets today, Nona, what's the wrap?
It's the same thing, more caution. And, the last couple of days we've seen both Australia and Canada, the currencies there have been rocked by, uncertainty about the economic outlook. And so we ended up still, though, 0.25%, 22 points to 9,437, which is pretty good. The New Zealand dollar is 67.8 US cents, and that's reflecting that uncertainty. But against the Australian, we're still rising 96.3 Australian and 51.5 pence, which is holding steady with Brexit still up in the air. Lots of uncertainty out there for sure.
Yeah, thanks, Nona. Nona Peltier with your business news.